her. Yes. Okay, cool. So, welcome to Magical Midlife today. I am so very excited to welcome my first ever guest. So excited. I have got Jen Rightmyer from Baked by Jenny with me today. So hi there,
Hello,
Jenny.
Lindsay.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well. I am so excited that you're here today. Thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm very honored to be here as well. It's quite the thrill.
And my
So
first guest.
I know, and this is my first podcast too. So it's like a win-win all around, I think.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So you're in the hot seat today.
I know. I love
And
it.
well, one of the reasons that I have been so inspired by you over the last, because we've known each other probably 3 years we met, I think, at the farmer's market.
Yep.
And then over
Yep.
the
Yep.
last year, you have been sending out emails through your business, Baked by Jenny, which obviously we're going to come talk about,
Yes.
through your
Yeah.
business. And they have been constantly uplifting, inspirational, motivational. And that really stood out to me. And that's really why I wanted to talk to you about
Oh,
your different perspective on, on where we are right now.
yeah. Yeah.
But I don't just want to focus on COVID, because otherwise that's pretty dull for everybody, because that's all we're hearing about anyway. But as I say, that was a real testament to how you are and your mindset and what you bring to life.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah.
You're so welcome. Thank you. My goodness, thank you. So first of all, can we find out a little bit about you? So
Sure.
tell us just a little bit about, how many kids you have. Do you have any pets? Tell us a bit about that, Jen.
Sure. Well, we live in a small town north of Toronto called Queensville. We've got two kids, Jack, who is 12, and Hannah, who is 10. And my lovely husband of coming up on 14 years, Mike. What else I'm a fairly outdoorsy, creative, sporty, expressive, possibly at times, person. We have chickens in our backyard. That sort of covers it for pets at the moment, which my husband says is just enough to have to do chickens. But yeah, um, what else? What else do you want to know?
Okay, so I'll start asking. Don't you worry. Be careful what you
Okay.
ask for, because I'll get into
Okay.
questions.
Okay.
So as I say, your business is Baked by Jenny.
Mhm.
So what I'm really interested is, I assume you didn't leave school and say, oh, wow, I want to start my business called Baked by Jenny.
Yeah. No. No.
No.
No.
So tell us how
No.
you
So.
got to here.
Yeah, I know, it's so interesting, right? So I had like almost a 20-year career raising money. That was my thing, and I led huge budget, thousands of people level size of events, fundraising events, walks and runs, and or gala dinners. I mean, I did like all of it. And but anyway, so when I was home, when I had the kids, I, I a friend of mine actually at the time had started a catering business. Her name is Marie, and she would get so busy that she would call me up and be like, I need you to bake some stuff for me, because she knew I was good in the kitchen. And I've always kind of been good in the kitchen. I wouldn't say, I'm not necessarily a foodie person per se, but I think it's the creativity outlet for me that kind of the kitchen sort of is like a wonderful vehicle for me. So that's kind of, and I just sort of got good at it, whether it was baking or cooking or whatever, over time. So anyway, so I'd be off with the kids, on maternity leave or whatever. They were really little. And, next thing I know, I was baking like, 6 loaves of, lemon blueberry cake and, all these 4 different kinds of cookies. And, and then I was meeting my girlfriend Marie, like out on the highway, and she would like, pick up all this baking and take it into the city where she had some like massive event going on that, of course she was so busy, she just didn't have the time to like do all that kind of baking. And that ended up morphing into, she would say to me like, I need to tell people like where this has come from. Like, who are you? Like, can we say this is like baked by Jenny? And she used to call me Jenny. Actually, I have a handful of friends that naturally just always call me Jenny. So that's kind of where Baked by Jenny originated. And then I guess, and I would go and work with her at some of her big events and things like on the weekends and, whatever, just because I found it thrilling, like just to be with different groups of people. And I would see all these different venues down in Toronto, and it was so creative. And she, often would, throw me in the kitchen, and I would be prepping and cooking and, helping her put together these like massive, dinners and buffets and, or desserts. I mean, she had me make like desserts for a wedding one time, which I'll never forget that. And she was like, no, I need you, Jenny, I need you. This is what I need you to do. And I need it to be this and and go figure it out. And I'd be like, okay. And I would go and I would do it. And anyway, and then, so that was sort of, it was a bit of a part-time gig, I guess, if you could call it that. And then about 4 years ago, I was working in a fundraising department. It was a smaller department that I kind of led at the time. And my boss actually was the president and CEO of this charity, this not-for-profit that I was working for, who I absolutely adored and loved. And she was brilliant. And she was a hard ass too, but brilliant, brilliant mind. And I love that. And she ended up getting let go by the board of directors. And I was so devastated. And they brought in sort of this temporary person that, her background was finance. She was not a very outside the box kind of a thinking person. Her management style wasn't really, anyway, it didn't work for me. And very quickly it was like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? I did not enjoy going to work anymore, because all the things in the space and the opportunity, everything that I kind of was growing under just was squashed. And so it's interesting that, sometimes, and I do believe this, that like the universe can kind of put conditions in your life that make it easy to make those decisions, right? Like to move on. And I also remember at the time that, because similarly, because the kids were probably, kind of, they might have been 7, kind of 8, 9 in there. And my husband traveled a lot for his job. So here I was, paying a fortune for, after school care. They were in all kinds of extracurricular activities. My husband was gone, 2 nights a week generally. And I was working in this like 9 to 5 office job that was suffocating. And I was like, what am I doing? And then also too, I noticed that I was even having a hard time putting good food on the table for my kids and my husband. And because I didn't have the time, I wasn't inspired. And I just felt like I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, with like no direction. And, it was all execution all the time. And there was no space kind of in there for me. And I just thought, oh my God, like, I don't know that this is what I want my life to be like. Like, is like, maybe it doesn't have to be like this.
Yeah.
And anyway, and, like my father was a business owner, and he, had a wonderful sort of rag to riches kind of a story where, he purchased a fledgling, business just north of us in the next big town up Barrie. And, through time and hard work, turn it into this like massive, incredible success. And so I always kind of had that in the back of my mind of like, one of the things I wanted to do in my life was like to experience that as like to start a business of some kind. And I didn't really know what it was or how, or I didn't go to business school, but I just thought like, oh my gosh, like maybe this is it. Like maybe this is my moment that I'm going to just jump off this cliff, because staying on the cliff at the right now is brutal. Like, what am I doing? Right. So that's where Baked by Jenny kind of got launched. And I quit my job. And, within a couple of months, I was a vendor in the East Gwillimbury Farmers Market. And, and it was and that, I saw the farmers market, of course, as strategically, it was a way of like recruiting a following and figuring out, what people would buy and how much would they pay for that. And, and in it, like it was just a wonderful, like, okay, let's just go like
Yeah.
figure it out of like, because at the time I didn't really 100% know what was going to stick, but I did know that, my interests were, I knew that I had the skills in the kitchen to create whatever this was going to be, that I could fill a niche thing. And, because it started actually as, there were so many other parents out there. I saw them, at hockey practice and swimming lessons and whatever. Everyone's running around like a chicken with their head cut off, and no one's in there living on McDonald's and all that kind of thing. And I thought, oh my God, like maybe I could be the guy that helps people not do that.
Mm.
And so, and that was a really good niche at the time, because really, I mean, and it's amazing how much working style has sort of morphed even, in the last 4 years, where now it's like, people are working from home, they've got more flexible hours. I mean, and COVID's just sort of like washed the whole office thing like right off the map, so, but I mean, I've evolved with those times too, right? Because I mean, we all have had to do that, but I just knew that, cooking and baking was something like I knew that was a good vehicle for me, where I could craft a life around that for myself that made me feel like more balanced as a person, that I would have more flexibility in my day, that I could sort of be more in control of like, okay, if I have a window here, yeah, I can go run 5K before I dive into whatever my next thing is.
Yeah.
Way more space for my children, because that was actually a very big motivator for me when it came to Baked by Jenny. That I wanted to be a better mom. That was a big thing. I didn't feel like I was doing the mom thing very well at the time. And that was, yeah.
So let me ask you a question. Would
Yeah.
you, if you hadn't have had that change of boss,
Yeah.
would you still have made the jump?
I think eventually, yes.
Right.
I don't think it would have been as immediate, because I think that fear, I'm no different than anybody else. I mean, taking a risk is laced with fear, because you just don't know, like,
Yeah, you
what,
never know.
are you gonna fail? Maybe you'll fail, and then what? And then what does that say about you? So it probably, like certainly the change in leadership was a big catalyst, I would say, for me. And that those conditions helped me, like that was worse than facing the fear. So staying in that was
Okay.
worse than facing the fear, right? So for me, that's kind of how it worked. But I think, like eventually I would have done it anyway, because I tried to lead my life by, okay, what are the things that I want to accomplish in my life? And I kind of have this list of, it's not a hard copy list or whatever, but I just think there's you're only on the planet for so long. So it's like, if you're going to do it, let's just get over it and do it already and just see what happens, right? Like there is a piece of me that's kind of like, okay, it's okay to throw caution to the wind as long as it's an educated, um, researched kind of decision, right?
Mhm.
Like take the fear is going to be there, but don't let that stop you
Yeah.
from, seeing what's on the other side, you know? So, and I do have moments where I get paralyzed
I was going to say,
with
is there
fear.
any time that
For sure.
you look back and go, oh my goodness, what have I done?
Yeah, all the time.
Oh, really?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
What
all
sort
the
of
time.
things throw you off balance?
So, well, I mean, relating to Baked by Jenny and kind of what I've done. So, a year ago, oh, it was a year, it was right before Christmas actually. And I landed one of the biggest sort of single jobs for Baked by Jenny that I've ever had. And I got contacted by, there's this seniors volunteer committee with the town where we live, and I've been feeding a lot of senior aging people too. That's kind of like another whole market that kind of opened up for me, aside from
Mhm.
like busy families. I've fed a lot of aging people that are living on their own but don't want to cook, or are sick of cooking, or whatever it is. So anyway, so I got contacted by this committee, and now this was during COVID times, but they were running, it used to be kind of like a fair where, an information fair where the seniors could go in to the local arena and there'd be tables all set up and here's all the services in the community and, whatever. But they did it as a drive-by, kind of an event. But there was always a lunch that was included. And so anyway, they contacted me to do the lunch. And it was a holiday. It was in December. And anyway, she said, well, this is fantastic. And this is what we want. And it was like, I did, turkey sandwiches and cranberries and, little mincemeat tarts. And it was just this cutest little thing. And she originally asked, that it would be about 75 people that I would be making lunches for. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, no problem. I said, yeah, just confirm the numbers like a week out, and, no problem. We'll do it a week out. She says, actually, it's kind of more like 140 people.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, oh, I was like, okay, I guess I'm getting another turkey. Like, that's a lot of turkey sandwiches, right? And anyway, so which was a thrill. But then, you know, so the fear, so this is kind of where what happens to me is that, I'm really great with the execution. I do all the planning. It looks great and the whatever. But then, and I get it all packed, and then, I deliver it all, and then they're all getting set up, and they got tents, and the flyers are all bagged, and they're going to just hand everyone sort of the information and my lunch as like the cars drive through or whatever. And I drop it off and I get in my car and I come home and I crawl into bed. It's like maybe 11 o'clock, sort of midweek or whatever. And I'm like paralyzed now with fear, because I'm like, oh my God, because it's the vulnerability
Yeah.
of the like, holy crap, look at what I've just done. And I know rationally it's beautiful and it looks amazing. And I've taken care with every of those 140 lunches, every single one I know has been packed and labeled and done to the nines with care. But then there's a piece that I was like, oh my God, this is a lot of people
Mm.
and it's my name. what if they don't like it? What if it's not what they wanted? What if the, what if, and all these like doubts kind of, like come into my mind or whatever. Anyway, so, about an hour later, of course, I get, phone call from the organizer. They loved all of it. It was all just this wonderful, incredible thing, and actually I still hear comments about that lunch that I did because, there's a seniors home in another neighboring town in Mount Albert that there's a few residents in there that I bring meals to. And of course, they were like, "Oh, you were the one that did those turkey sandwiches." That was a great lunch. I mean,
Yeah.
it's incredible. And I had the next day, I even had another senior person who was at that lunch who, she literally called me to say, "I just wanted you to know what a lovely, incredible lunch that was that you put together." And she just like raved about it. I mean, I had
That's
never met
so
her,
cool.
and it was just, yeah. So I think the fear is real for a lot of people. I think it's when you do something like when you put yourself into your work in that kind of way, there's a vulnerability that
There
you
is.
just sort of have to swallow and live with and trust and
Yeah.
know that what you're putting out there is good, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm 100% there yet with the trust of all of that, but it's, it is something that I face and just every so often, and I just have to go, okay, like this is okay. And here it is again. And it's okay, you know?
Do you think you'll ever
Um,
be there 100% with the trust of everything is good? And I've totally done the right thing. And this is the best thing ever for me and my family. Well, for you especially.
yeah, I mean, I don't think the vulnerability and the fear that's connected to that, I don't think I'll ever 100% be rid of that. I think that you like, because I think that it's also a driver too for
Mm-hmm.
me as far as, quality and creativity and, you know, doing things to like a level of standard that is excellent, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, to me, those kind of go like hand in hand. So, you could call me sort of an overachiever if you want, A type, whatever. I have all of that. I mean, and I think that it's okay, right? Like it bodes well for,
Yeah. You play with your strengths.
yeah, you play to your strengths totally. And whatever your weaknesses are, I think you learn to kind of incorporate them as best you can and just don't let them stand in the way of what you rationally know that you can do,
Mm.
you know?
What's been the
So
hardest part of getting to where you are today?
the hardest part,
And because
it's a
that
really
can be
good
different
question.
for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, so okay, so the hardest, okay, this is going to sound a bit crazy, but
Go for it.
I'm just
I
going
love that.
to it's
I love it already. Go for it.
so okay, so letting go of the belief that, so as a female person, I think there's a lot of things that we think we're supposed to be doing in order to be labeled successful as a parent, as a, you know income earner. I think a lot of people think that it needs to look a certain way. And for me, when I was in my 20s, so I'm 48 now, so I'm right in
Spring
your,
chicken, may I say?
yeah, I'm
Yes.
right in your midlife thing here. Um, but anyway, I mean, when I was in my 20s, and I'm sure it was the same for you, there was kind of this like movement of empowerment for, I think, young women, where it was like, you can have it all, you can
Yeah.
do it all, you can have it all, you know, have the family, have the babies, be a fantastic mother, climb the corporate ladder, you know, what, all of it. And
Yeah.
so what I found was that, and this is just for me, but I found that that actually wasn't doable in the way that made me an okay person. So, like, what I mean by that is that, you know, sure, I was a mom, you know, sure, I had like fantastic office jobs and corporate jobs and leadership jobs along the way. I didn't find that after all of that, I was the person that I really kind of wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
which was, you know, present for my kids, you know, recognize, like really recognizing, like if they've got feelings about something, knowing and seeing the signs, which to me, if I was running around doing all the office work and, you know, I wouldn't have had the space to see that. And then also parent that in a way that I would want to parent.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I guess this is a long-winded answer, but once I kind of jumped off the cliff with Baked by Jenny, I remember beating myself up thinking like, oh my God, like, what have you done? Like, have you given up? Like, are you checking out on what, you know, like you're supposed to be doing as a mother and as like a corporate person? Like, is this what you're doing now? Like, what are you doing? And
Yeah.
so I had to, because there is sort of this image, right, of like what that is.
It's the
And
supposed to.
the supposed to's, yes. And so it took me a while to, and it was very difficult because the easy thing to do was to beat myself up about it and to
Mm.
go like, you've already failed because you haven't made it in that
Yeah.
world over there. And I did do a little bit of that, but then it very quickly, you know, I had to understand and put my own self and worth and needs and wants ahead of whatever that crap was that I thought was the truth. Right. And then once I kind of did that, then it was like, oh, that is just a bunch of crap. Like, who says that I couldn't do this and, you know, make the same money that I was doing before,
Mm-hmm.
yet get all these things back in
Mm.
my tank that I need in order to be the person that I want to be and the parent that I want to be and the
Yeah.
wife I want to be, right?
Yeah.
So that was probably the biggest hurdle for me, I would say,
I think
along the way.
it's funny that you say it's the biggest hurdle for you. I would suggest that's probably a massive hurdle for anybody going into their second life, their second
Yeah,
chapter, because
yeah,
it is. And I mean, just recently I had a conversation with somebody in the medical profession, and she said the same thing. She said, I've always followed the goals. I
yeah,
always did what society, suggested would
yeah,
empower me, and that I could have it all, and I could have the kids, and I could have a business, and I could be, a great wife, and could be doing things that I enjoyed, like successful and sporty.
yeah,
But I was also running myself into the ground doing it.
yeah,
So whilst
yeah,
filling everybody else's checkbox, where
yeah,
did I fit into this?
yeah,
So
yeah,
you're totally not alone.
yeah,
Excuse me.
yeah, yeah,
Which is pretty funny. So who have been, I mean, it sounds like your friend Marie was a catalyst at the beginning.
yeah, very much. Yeah.
Has anybody else been instrumental in helping you along the way? Because a business coach of mine once said, only you can do it, but you can't do it alone.
Yes. So, yeah, that is very true, actually. So definitely my girlfriend Marie she was a massive catalyst. I'll never forget when I called her. to say, this is my plan. We're going to like, just, jump off the cliff and, go for it with Baked by Jenny. And at the time it was sort of the fall, and I had said, oh, I'm going to plan to do this for the spring. And I remember her saying, why not now? Like, just do it now. Like, what are you waiting for? Right. And
Fantastic.
yeah. And I was like, I don't know. Like, so that was, like having that kind of an attitude, in my ear over the years. And she calls me all the time, and we still, we brainstorm out stuff, and she brainstorms stuff of her stuff with me and vice versa. And, she's been really amazing on that front for sure. I'm trying to think. I have another girlfriend, Angie, who she ran her own business for years and years. This is again back sort of before, iPhones and the internet or whatever, but she was a videographer and used to put together corporate videos for big businesses and, politicians and things like that. And she also was another lovely realist, I think would be a great word to use, along the way that I would kind of check in with her, and she would ask me how things were going and whatever. And, because I think there's a lot of stuff about small business that, is reality that, that nobody really talks about, like you could go a month or 2 months without making any money at all, especially in the beginning. And it doesn't mean that you're a failure.
Yeah.
Because on that third month, you could make more than you have in the last 6 months put together. So like that just as a very small example, that like there were things like that, that she was very helpful to me, and kind of, normalizing as far as, what creating and building a small business includes, and things you can expect along the way.
It's interesting that you say that, because have you ever seen that? I guess it's a Facebook meme or internet meme or whatever, when they say, the graph to progression, and they say the expected graph to progression is that straight line.
Yeah.
And then actually the real life version is, higgledy-piggledy,
Oh.
all over the place, ups and downs, highs and lows.
Yeah. It looks like a roller coaster.
Reality.
It is reality. Yeah. And and again, I did not know that when I, I was like, what do you mean the line isn't straight? I like predictable. What do you mean it's loopy? Like, no, I don't know. No. But again, it's just, it's, you learn as you go. And, the other thing that I had to accept, I guess, was that when it comes to small business, the other thing that I found was that you're always up against your own ceiling. So at no point really do you know it all, like ever.
No,
so there is
ever.
Ever. And I mean, life is kind of like that too, right? So, but like, I was kind of like, what do you mean I have to like okay, I have to do something new again that is not within my control, and I don't really know the outcome. And, I mean, and it's everything from, like new dishes or meal concoctions that I would do, or, labeling systems or inventory systems or financial tracking things, or like the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So learning to kind of accept that, it's okay that you're never going to know it all, and to trust that you have, the skills and the resources around you to sort it out. And it doesn't have to be perfect the first go around, generally it won't be, kind of thing. But like, over the years, like you kind of build these layers, right, of things that, and so it's like, okay, now I've done this, so then I can move on to whatever this is or whatever that is, or, and then it, before you know it, you've sort of created this, like this entity, which is your business. So I mean, I know that Mother's Day is coming up, and you're asking me about COVID and my emails and all that. I remember last year around this time, it was just such a dark time. It was again lockdown, but it was all
It
brand
was
new, and
huge unknown.
people,
That's the thing.
everyone
It was
was,
brand new. You're
oh,
right.
huge, huge unknown. And I remember like thinking, okay, I need to do something positive.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like right sort of off the cuff or whatever. And I thought, I wonder if I could pull together and do like a couple of, small business contacts that I had, and put together like something for Mother's Day for
Mm-hmm.
people. And because at the time, I wasn't really getting any calls, because I think everyone was sort of paralyzed in
Yeah.
this COVID thing, as it was so new and whatever. I mean, people weren't calling me like,
Mm.
hey, can you send over like a big mac and cheese for me and the kids, like that?
Yeah.
It just wasn't happening, right? So
Yeah.
and I needed the positivity and the, because one thing that I that I do as a wonderful sort of therapeutic thing is that whenever I feel stuck or negative or whatever, I try to turn it around and be generous or pay something forward to someone else.
Oh, cool. That's a
Um,
great habit.
yeah, and because it's a win-win, right?
It
So
really
like
is.
I feel good, and I
Mm-hmm.
really, it's not about getting the feedback of someone saying, oh, aren't you good? It's not really about that. For
Mm.
me, it's about, you know getting outward of your own space.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I thought, well, if I collected a couple of different people, and then the sum is greater than the parts,
Mm-hmm.
and then but then everybody wins, because like I'm going to support these other small businesses, and then I make a little money, they all make a little money, and then but now there's this really neat gift that people could have for Mother's Day,
Yeah.
because of course there was no restaurants or pedicures or spas or whatever, like all of that
Yeah.
was shut down as it is right now. And anyway, and so that was my kind of like pay it forward thing,
Fantastic.
and it was this like huge success. But in the moment it was like, holy crap, like this is, I've never done this before, so what's this supposed to look like? And I don't, do I need a card? Do I create the card? I can't go buy cards. So and anyway, so and it ended up being this like lovely, very original project that, you know, in the end, of course, people loved. And I offered to deliver. And so I delivered, and then, but that made me feel good to like, and a few of them were even surprise gifts for the recipient mom. So I'd show up at the door with this like thing, and, and they just were like blown away and just thought it was terrific. And so that's how I spent my Mother's Day last year, which
Fantastic.
was like really cool.
Yeah, really.
And but I do remember going through the exercise of like, oh my god, well, packaging, how do I, and like there were just so many questions,
Mm.
because I had never I'd never
It
done
was
anything
new.
like that before. And then it was brand new, and then but it was this big success. So this year was like, okay, like let's rock this, like I know how to do this now, right? So it was like and this year it's obviously like more organized,
Mm.
and but the volume, I can do more of them, and again, it's like it's a win-win for everybody. So, and I think the unknowns, like they just, back to my point, they just are, when you're running a small business, I think you just are constantly having to do that,
Yeah.
and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
You just sort of have to trust that it's going to work itself out. you know?
There is an aspect, as you say, actually of trust,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you have to trust that you don't know the outcome, and you have to
Yes.
trust that you're actually going to survive whatever,
Yes. Yeah.
because that's the difficult part. Now,
Yeah.
because I'm aware of the time, but one thing that I'd love to ask you is, you have given so much back to the community,
Mm-hmm.
which, judging by what you've said, is, really key criteria for helping you keep spirits up and, staying motivated and positive. But
Yeah.
what about the people that you hang out with when we're allowed to hang out, obviously?
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
who are those
Yeah.
people?
Who are those people? Because I
Where
remember
are
having
they?
a conversation with you, obviously, when we were allowed to be out in public, about, you'd really missed getting together with girlfriends. So how much,
Yeah.
because we've all been tested on that, how much do you think that plays a part? And having the girlfriends that you do and having the people around you, how much does that play a part outside of just family life? Because sometimes being a mum, a busy mum, and obviously,
Yeah.
again, times are changing, but it can be quite a lonely business.
Yes. Yep.
So how do you manage that?
So probably so I manage it on two fronts, because I do find that um dads slash husbands, I don't know how this is, but it just is, that dads slash husbands have a way of getting together much more impromptu and much more frequently than moms slash wives, women. um I can't think about it too much because I probably have feelings about that somewhere in there. But anyway, that is
I'm not going to go into
right.
therapist mode and start digging. That's not fair. That's not what today's about.
But it is a thing. So,
Yeah.
okay, so I do, I tackle this one on two fronts. So first of all, I definitely have a small core group of very tight female friends. Um, and we like the kind of friends that if you don't see each other in 6 months, um, it's like nothing ever happened kind of thing. And everybody downloads and we laugh and cry and it's perfect.
Mm.
So those gatherings were pretty, and we're all in the same cut from the same cloth, right? It's like it's important, even if it's one weekend a year, we're doing this and we're going to do this until we are old and gray and the end, right? So that's kind of one front
Mm-hmm.
that I have. Then the other front that I have is much more, or was anyway before COVID, but it was much more structured where, you know, I on Tuesday nights I played in a women's competitive volleyball league. And over the years, that was a group of women that I came to know. And you could talk about stuff or talk about nothing
Mm.
with, or giggle or joke around or say real things, amongst sort of like, it was a very amazing camaraderie. And and it's interesting, like before COVID, I took that kind of thing for granted.
Mm.
And now I would give anything because I see the value of what that really is.
Yeah.
But it's the structure. So like, no matter what, I would go and do that. And I would come home and my tank would be full of like, being amongst other women, other moms, other wives, whatever it was,
Mm.
who are all sort of like-minded, sporty, running around feeling like a crazy person, doing this and that. And, you know, um, and then, but I had a couple of those, I had a Friday morning strength class that I used to go to locally here. That was a dozen women. We would all get together, and it was a personal trainer that she worked. She recreated another small business owner, actually,
Mm-hmm.
self-created person, Sandy, and she created her whole basement into this workout studio, and we would all gather and again talk about like just the real stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
of what, and but that was like every Friday morning. So I would like, okay, so I would look at my calendar and go, okay, this is Friday, so this is where I'm going, and I would go do that. Sunday nights I played in a mom's hockey league locally too, right? So I that was my other front where it was like, because I need the social. I
Yeah.
definitely am a social, well, you know that. I need the social exchange. I think that's really important for people's sanity
Yeah.
and feeling connected to
Yeah.
people, is really important. I think certainly as a mother, it's very easy to get lost and get alone and be alone, and because all you seem to be doing is parenting and
Mm.
cooking and whatever, right? Like
Yeah.
emptying the dishwasher and doing laundry, like
Yeah.
it's like never
It's
ending.
very
So
functional.
very functional. It
Mm.
can be if you let it, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I've kind of managed with
Mm-hmm.
it. I'm during COVID, like I don't find that more screen time is better. That doesn't satisfy me on a social level with
Yeah.
friends. Like I would rather, and I have done some of this where, you meet up with a buddy and, go for like a walk in the bush or
Yeah.
whatever. Like I would, that I would rather do that less
Mm-hmm.
than do screens more,
Yeah.
if that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So,
Something you said that was really interesting. You said about how you get together with the different groups of women with all the different activities. And as you say what needs to be said, and it can be really real.
yeah,
And personally, I think one of the things I know certainly really throws me off balance is if you spend too much time on social media
yeah,
and people aren't always real.
yes,
And fine, I understand that you celebrate the good stuff or you want to share a lovely family photo or
yeah,
whatever it may be.
yeah,
However, there is no balance in that because you then lack to share the, oh my goodness, I screwed up supper again, or actually I'm feeling really lonely, or
yeah,
the other side of the coin,
yeah,
which we all feel.
yeah,
So, I mean, that's certainly something that prompted doing this podcast,
hmm,
was because within that space of community of women, there is so much support to be real.
yes,
Um, and that's why I've asked you about, what were the tough parts, and
hmm,
they don't discount from what is the good stuff that you've achieved.
yeah,
Because the good stuff is easy to recognize and the good stuff's easy to celebrate and easy to share.
yeah,
It's the rocky road that takes you there
yeah,
that people aren't that keen to share very often out of
yeah,
context. Whereas
yeah,
you've shared that so truthfully and honestly, which I really appreciate. And I
hmm,
really hope that whoever is listening today, that if there is something that they're just doing that they kind of take for granted, as you say, that you're actually quite good at it and you're ending up doing it anyway.
hmm,
Well, if you hate your day job, why not maybe take a step and say, well, actually, that could be something. Not it
hmm,
has to be. I
hmm,
want it to be an empire or anything, but there is the seed that has possibility of growing into something which might bring me more happiness.
yeah. Yeah. And actually, I would say that, because I do agree with you. I think that, you see people trumpet the successes out there and, oh, I built this company and done this or whatever it is. Um, I would say I've come to realize that every change is rocky. Like there's no
Yeah.
smooth anything when it comes to change. And if it is smooth, then there's something suspect, because it's like I really, and I mean I see, I mean I see it in my friends' lives, and it's like even something as simple as selling your house and moving to a new house. I mean, it's moving is a crap show because
Mm,
like it's chaos, and it's dealing with a lot of new and timing, and different people in different place and, you know, all that kind of thing. I mean, no one ever says, you know, when you think about it, oh, well, we just moved. Like no, that's not actually what really happens, right? Like it's
Yeah.
days and weeks of stress and packing and unpacking and downsizing and whatever it is, right? So I just think that, you know, I've come to realize that when, you know, whether it's life or, you know, small business or business in general or whatever it is, when there's change, like it is rocky and there just will be unknown. And I think, and the fact that that's okay,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I think accepting that makes a world of difference,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because then it's kind of like, okay, so if I'm not going to know, then that's fine. And like, let's just plow forward and figure it out and,
Yeah.
you know, whatever. Right. So,
Yeah. See how it
yeah.
rolls out.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it will roll out.
Yeah. And I just, you know, and part of that, I think also too, is that, you know, when you accept things like that and realize that the perfect is sort of in the imperfect, I think, in some ways. So it's like, and being as authentic, that kind of just keeps you closer to being an authentic person.
Yeah.
And it's okay to feel like a crazy person some days, and it's okay to feel like a superhero some days, and it's okay to be in between some of that or somewhere in the middle or whatever on other days. It just, I don't know, I think there's that, to me, is authentic, and acknowledging that, you know, who you are and what you know and what you're good at, what you're not good at, and then leading from all of that, is there's power in that.
There is
And
immense strength
yeah,
in it.
and strength. And I know that when I am at my most grounded, that I am at my most powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And so Baked by Jenny, because it's been a way for me to have a more balanced lifestyle, and it leaves space for all the things that kind of fill my tank and make me who I am. It's interesting. I do feel more personally, I feel stronger as a person
Mm-hmm.
today than I did, you know, 5 years ago, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Fantastic.
You know, so
So
yeah.
cool. Excellent. So I think that is a beautiful note to end on. Feeling stronger today than ever before. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
So if anybody is local, or if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So I would say through my website, which is www.bakedbyjenny.ca. And all my contact information is there. I'm also on Facebook. I've got a Facebook page there too. But I wouldn't, definitely my website. I'm more of a, you know, call me on the phone or send me an email rather than, you know, social media. I've never really tackled social media in the way that I probably should.
You see, there's a should for you. There's a should.
I know.
Yeah.
But you know what, to that degree, and you talked about my emails, you know, I do find that, like, you know, I haven't needed social media probably in the way, I think that there is a myth there about social media. I'm not 100% sold that you need social media in order to be successful in business.
It's just another tool.
It's just another tool. There's lots of other tools out there that you can use, right?
Yeah.
To connect with people. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And yours has been the farmers market.
Yeah.
And your emails.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
communication.
sure. It's totally communication. Yeah, for sure.
Super cool. Which I think was
Yeah.
actually originally the underlying premise of social media.
Yeah, I think so. Right.
That's where it all started.
I know, but I do agree with you. Like, I think there is some of social media, like, it is a wonderful, powerful tool,
Mm-hmm.
but there is sometimes a distortion there that,
Yeah.
I understand what you mean when you're
It's
talking
true.
about that. Yeah.
Anyway, so bakedbyjenny.com or .ca?
.ca.
.ca. Perfect. Okay. So Jenny, thank you so much for being on this, being my first guest.
I know.
And it's been so lovely finding out, your story and how Baked by Jenny was started, because I and my whole family have benefited from the results many, many, many times. You have saved many a family night dinner for me, which I truly appreciate. And I love it. I hope that this Mother's Day goes really smoothly for your package that you've put together for this year. That's super cool.
Yeah. I'm organized. I'm ready.
Look at you go. Look at you go. That's fantastic. That's so cool. Thanks so much, Jen. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. It was an honor.